For the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
What's up, world? It's the one and only Pop DBacks, the Primetime Capper. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. And it is time for the premier sports betting show, the PrimeTime Angles. And boy, oh boy, we have ourselves a full deck today. And up first, we have the first Monday Night Football game that was last night with the Eagles winning 25-11 in Tampa versus Bucs. Are they the best team in the NFL? That's a very serious question at this point because you have a team in the Philadelphia Eagles who are just absolutely picking up right where they left off at last year, having the most dominant defensive line and the most dominant offensive line. And the crazy part about it is the defensive line is actually very improved. They have probably a guy who will – I won't put him in the Hall of Fame yet because it's really early in his career. But the way that he keeps disrupting games and the flow of games and making life a lot easier for the Eagles moving forward, it's just been an absolute godsend to have a guy like Jalen Carter. He's an absolute monster. Yeah, last night you look at the stats, he only got one tackle. But the thing is, though, he had one of the tackle was a half a sack as well, too. And he forced 2 fumbles last night as well. The guy is an absolute monster. He has a sack and a half on the season. You're not going to look for him to get a lot of tackles, but what happens is he disrupts things and he puts his body on the quarterback. And that makes things a lot easier moving forward for this team. And this team is really adamant about being better this year because they know that they didn't finish the job last year. And that's because they weren't good enough in the clutch situation to win that game. And they're trying to figure out how do we go ahead and hold on to double-digit leads and not lose double-digit leads against teams that are seen as some of the better teams in the league. And last night, the Bucs, for the moment, were the number 1 team coming out of the NFC South. They're the 3-time defending champion of the division as well, too, or 2 or 3. It doesn't matter. They've won the division the last 2 out of 3 years at least because I'm trying to remember, did the Saints beat out the Bucs that one year? And I think, yes, that did happen because they had to go to Philly, the Bucs, and they beat the Bucs, and the Bucs beat them in Philly that year, or it might have been Washington. No, it was Washington. So yeah. So pretty much, they've won that situation the last few years, though, the title. So they're going in there, and it's their home game as well too. First home night game for the year without Brady, all that good stuff, and there was some hope there, and. Usually Philadelphia goes to Tampa Bay and they have a terrible time. They always seem to have issues against the Bucs, but that didn't happen last night. They took care of their business. They finished strong, and that's all you have to do. Pretty much point blank. With a team like the Eagles, you can keep everything very simple with this team. You don't have to overdo it, especially in a game against a team like the Bucs who are kind of limited. They don't have a great running game. They pretty much have one receiver, but they have another speedy receiver in Chris Godwin. But we all know that Mike Evans can literally take over a game. But last night, they just didn't get enough. They didn't get anything out the running game last night. They got 38 yards from Rashard White, and it just was not helpful. Mike Evans was held to 60 yards receiving last night on 5 catches and 10 targets. And Godwin, he had 3 catches for 32 yards last night. That was a lot of nothing. It just was a lot of empty stats last night. And they just played great football last night. The Eagles really took care of their business. Hurts threw for 277 last night. Also threw for a touchdown, but he threw two very bad interceptions last night as well too. Even was sacked. But the story of the game once again was DeAndre Swift. He is an absolute monster. And we have to understand that right now he's probably the best running back in the NFL because he's running behind the best line in the NFL. And last night he gets 130 yards on 16 carries. That's incredible. And then Gainwell gets 43 on 14 carries last night. That's not that much better, but he still was able to add on to a very dominant running game for the Eagles last night. And then Hurts adds in his 28 yards, but he had to do this on 10 attempts last night as well, too. So he was getting a little bit of yards, but he wasn't getting a lot of yards last night. But still, at the end of the day, this team still ran over 200 yards on the ground last night, at 201 to be exact. And that's exactly what they wanted to do. They went ahead and got 2 sacks last night as well, too. A.J. Brown had himself a game to where he's not going to be yelling and screaming in everybody's ear Wednesday morning at practice. He got 9 catches, 131 yards, but Zacchaeus got the touchdown, and he probably was the more active guy last night with getting his 58 yards and 2 catches last night. And Devonta Smith was kind of held in check. 4 catches, 28 yards. He could have did a whole lot more. And I know he wanted to do a whole lot more, but you got to take what they give you. And it's that simple. So pretty much great effort by the Eagles last night to win this game. Are they the best team in the NFL? To me right now, yes, because they have it to where they're very good in the trenches. And that's exactly what you got to be. You have to be the dominant team on the inside. The guys that don't get all the accolades and all the newspaper clippings, those are the most important people on your team because they're the silent killers, and these boys are killing. So with that, we move on to our next topic, and it's going to be this. It's going to be the Bengals beat the Rams 19-16 to notch their first win. Is this win going to get them back on track? That's the question. We'll see, because they do have a game against the Titans coming up on Sunday, which is going to be a road game as well too. They had 2 home games in a row. They split those 1-1. Now they have to go back and play a team in the Titans who are pretty good. Another non-divisional game as well too, because you have to understand they gave the Bengals some of the toughest games you could start a season with. The Browns' upstart defense week 1, and then you had the revenge factor with Baltimore coming to Cincinnati and ruining the home opener, and Joe Burrow still being a little off with his injury and everything. But last night, Joe Burrow played through it. He's used to it now. He got an extra day of rest as well, too, by not having to play Sunday, and then he was able to help finish that game. But last night, Joe Mixon was the difference in getting those guys the victory. Joe Mixon broke through to get the go-ahead touchdown that put the Bengals in place to actually win that game last night. And by him being nice and steady all year, it's kept the Bengals somewhat decent, in my opinion. If you just go ahead and write a line and draw a line through week 1 and just face the fact that they played against a defense that did some great things that day, the Bengals have not been bad over the last 2 weeks offensively. They scored 20 They scored 20 some odd points the week before against the Ravens, and then last night they got 19, but they only gave up 16. So if you look at the way that they're giving up points right now, okay, they gave 24 opening day. They gave 27 last week. In total, that's going to be 51 points. Last night they gave 16. That's good. That's really good. That means that the defense got the memo that they have to be much better while they wait on their offense to get into a groove. Joe Burrow is going to get good as the season goes along, but he has a hamstring injury that he should have sat out the first 2 games of the season with. But they could not do that after paying him all that money, because then you get everybody talking about, well, if he can walk, he can play. It ain't even about no more about Is he healthy? If he can walk, if he can be able-bodied, he has to play when it comes to the quarterback now. Even though you need your legs to plant so you can make strong throws. And, you have to play the quarterback position to understand that part. And when you don't get enough practice reps in, it's going to affect you in the long run because there's a lot of scheming that's in place right now for the Bengals. And so you weren't able to be a part of the adjustments that have to get made in these games. So now you have to kind of catch up. And that's exactly what Joe Burrow did. And Joe Burrow did a great job leading his team last night. That's what you want your quarterback to be. Everybody wants their quarterback to be Captain Marvel or Spider-Man or some type of superhero. That's not what the quarterback does. The quarterback manages the team, that manages the offensive side of the ball, keeps the defense confident. That's exactly what the quarterback's job is supposed to be. And that's exactly what Joe Burrow did last night. The Rams, on the other hand, they had a game to where they had a lot of moments to where they could have scored touchdowns, but they turned into field goals. That's kind of been an ongoing saga for Sean McVay over the last few years. He's had some of the more high-end, very potent offenses in the NFL, but he has a little bit of an issue ever since Jared Goff was there with, punching it in at the goal line in games like this on the road where they have lost games because they weren't able to score touchdowns but kick field goals. It happens. They wanted to blame a lot of this on Goff when he was there, but now you look at it and it goes back to Sean McVay like it's always has. And last night was another Sean McVay overthink. He was overthinking, and pretty much what happened was they lost the game because he was too deep inside of his own head. And that is going to be the killer of this team moving forward if he doesn't fix that. Because the Rams have a lot of potential to shock a lot of people on going to the playoffs this year. But right now, they're a team that looks like they'll finish 7-10, 8-9. They look very middling at best. But they can bounce back from this. This is something that they needed to motivate them to be a better team going into week 4. The Bengals needed this so they can feel that they still have a chance to compete in a very tough AFC. And they already know that they're a game behind the rest of their group. You have to understand the AFC North, you have 2-1, 2-1, 2-1, 1-2 Bengals. So they're already behind as is, and they're 0-2 in division play. So there's a lot of things that the Bengals have to catch up on. But it's a week-by-week season. It's a week-by-week league, and they understand that part. They were able to get their first win of the season last night. They go ahead, you celebrate that for a few minutes, and then you get yourself prepared for Tennessee. It's very simple. Same thing goes for the Rams. You lost the game last night by 3 points. You got yourself a late touchdown to get the game close. You try to give yourself a chance to win the game last night, but the Bengals finished the job, and they got their sweet revenge for what happened in the Super Bowl. So we move along, and you go get ready for the Colts. All in all, it was a sneaky good game last night. It didn't have all the offense that everybody loves to watch, but it did have some great defense to it, and it had some great chess play to it as well, too, where you got coaches that have to make key decisions to win these games. So with that, we're going to go ahead and move forward to our next topic in hand, and it's going to be this. Ohio State silence critics after thrilling win over Notre Dame? Ohio State went into South Bend, won the game 17-14, probably their closest game I've ever seen in my lifetime with Notre Dame, because usually the Ohio State Notre Dame game turns into an Ohio State highlight tape. This time around, they had themselves a very, very tough game. It was a game that had a lot of people just really in a bad place. If you were an Ohio State fan, you were probably at the house ready to throw your TV out the window, because the decisions Ryan Day was making were like, what is he doing here? But Ryan Day is that confident in his team on them being able to finish the job and being able to score touchdowns at will if they need to. And Kyle McCord doesn't bring the element of being a running quarterback. He doesn't bring the element of being a fancy quarterback. He doesn't bring the element of a guy that's has such a great touch on his deep ball. Kyle McCord is Craig Krenzel 2.0. All you need the guy to do is manage the team and be clutch when you need to be clutch. And he did exactly that. Marvin Harrison was somewhat held in check, then got hurt, but came back into the game. Very strong on his end, very tough on his end, but Ubeka had them taken care of in that spot. But this kid training is an absolute monster, man. This guy is giving me shades of Beanie Wells, a little bit of Eddie George as well too, but we're not going to go that far yet. But the kid can ball. The kid is good. And he is the reason why they were able to win this game, because he confidently ran that ball into the end zone. He knew he was going to score a touchdown on that play. And the Ohio State offensive line had to be the star of that drive right there, and the drive prior to that they messed up on. Yes, 4th and inches. You're running a reverse. It didn't work out, but you still were able to get your defense out there, and they went 3 and out on Notre Dame immediately. And then they got the ball just in time, because now it's much better in college football. When you got the ball in the final 2 minutes of the half, that's when we stop the clock. That's when you need to stop the clock for timeouts and things of that nature. But, when we had to keep stopping games for timeouts, things like that, it really did hold up games, and it really did switch the trajectory of games sometimes as well, too. This is why we had so many 30-point comebacks and all this blase. But now you're probably not going to have those too much anymore, okay, because you're not holding the game up as much. And Ohio State was just absolutely in tune with the clutch factor of winning this game. And that's where you can see Ryan Day has grown as a coach, and this is where you can see this team has grown as individuals as well too. They understand that they left a lot to be desired against Georgia last year. They left a lot on the field that day and didn't win the game because they couldn't finish in the red zone. They couldn't get their kicker down to a spot to where he could make an easy kick. Or they just didn't go down there and score the touchdown that they needed to do to just go ahead and win the damn game. And so now Ohio State understands that we may have to slow this thing down a little bit. We might not need to be the most electrifying offense in all of college football. What we got to do is be the best balanced possible group that we can be, and have a defense that plays A1 football each and every single down, even when they're getting beat. You're not going to get beat by that much. So there's a lot of things that are positives moving forward for the Ohio State Buckeyes at this point. And you know what? If you're in Columbus today, you should be very happy that you're sitting at number 4, and you get a bye this week as well too. So it all works out, and it should be a very, very good week in Columbus as they prepare for a big time game next week, because all Ohio State games are big time, but it's another conference game, and we'll have the preview for that when we need to have the preview for that. So with that, we're going to go ahead and jump into the boxing world and talk about Canelo Charlo fight week begins. What to expect leading up to Saturday? Well, what to expect leading up to Saturday? What to expect is going to be a lot of, bravado, a lot of history of the two fighters, a lot of history of fighters that are undisputed, that fought each other, and all that good stuff. But I think this is the first of where you got two guys with 5 belts apiece, and they're going to fight each other for the right. But Canelo's not fighting Charlo for the 154 belts. Canelo has already dominated that division. That was like 5 years ago for Canelo's career, maybe 6-7 years ago for Canelo's career. Charlo is a guy that just stuck there at 154 because He never went to 160 because his brother fights at 160. And there was no point in going to 168 because you've been able to be the king of the 154 division. And what they did with Charlo, since it was a slow build to make him a popular boxer, because he's always been a great fighter and he's always been a knockout artist, but it was a slow build because the guy's attitude is one of those attitudes that keep you kind of far away from a guy because you don't want to piss him off or you don't want to get pissed off listening to what he has to talk about. But he is matured. He's doing a lot better now. He understands that he's in his 30s and he has children and you have to act like an adult at some point. And he's pretty much got to that point. Canelo is really on the back end of his career. Let's keep it real. Canelo only has so many more fights in him where he's going to look decent. Canelo's prime is gone. It's over with. Canelo's prime left after the Caleb Plant fight, pretty much. Because Caleb Plant, they're never going to give Caleb his props. But he made Canelo work for every single one of those rounds he won. And he made Canelo really work for that knockout that he had to get at the end of that fight because we don't know how the judges were going to actually score that fight. Because, I had Caleb Plant up a point, I think, at that point before the stoppage happened. And, we know Canelo would have won, but there would have been a little bit of controversy there because, believe it or not, Caleb Plant competed. And it showed that Canelo wasn't the ultimate pound for pound anymore. And I felt like it was slipping away when he fought against Kovalev. Because I had Kovalev winning the fight. Without knocking out Kovalev, I truly still believe, I know it wasn't on the scorecards, right? Because they already had the judges pretty much taken care of. But I really, truly believe Kovalev would have won that fight if the fight would have went the distance. But it didn't. So it made Canelo look legendary. He knocked out a 175 guy. Blah, 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 blah. But at the same time, too, he had a lot of issues in that fight. And then he fights Bivol. Bivol exposes everything. But Canelo's excuse is he was hurt. Rib issue, hand issue, mental issue. He wasn't ready for the fight. He said he should have canceled the fight. He should have moved on. Canelo has the pass to do that if he wasn't all the way 100% because nobody wants to see Canelo not be 100%. So regardless of if he was able to fight or not able to fight, he went in there and fought the dude and got whooped. It's that simple. And then he gets some props back by beating an over-the-hill old Triple G. And he knows that wasn't anything you could write home about. And it was a fight that he was forced to be in because he had to honor that portion of the deal for the zone. Everybody knows that. Everybody who's in the business of boxing knows that the only reason why we had a third fight was because Canelo was obligated to have that third fight. He held it off for so long, knowing that he didn't want to fight Triple G a third time that quickly after beating him the second time, knowing that Triple G knows everything he would have to do to beat him in the third fight and make it just an even situation. You had to wait till the guy was absolutely done, and that's what happened. And he went ahead and got himself a nice little, boring victory over Triple G. And then he fights Ryder, and Ryder's supposed to be a guy he puts out in 3 rounds, and Ryder winds up being a guy that becomes a formidable opponent and helped himself get 5 more paydays after that. That was supposed to be John Ryder's retirement fight. Not at all. So there's a lot of things that are going against Canelo in this fight, but one thing that's going for Canelo is the experience. Canelo has been in the big game plenty of times. Charlo has been in the big game a few times, but it's been recently he's been in the big game. Tony Harrison, huge fight. That was a championship fight. That a lot went into that. That was a great rivalry. He got his revenge after a controversial decision. Brian Castano, who was probably the it fighter in 154 after Charlo and was seen as the guy who should be in place to be the undisputed. A lot of people felt like in their first fight in the draw, Castaño won the fight. I didn't feel like he won the fight. I felt like the fight was a draw. What happened in the second fight? Charlo goes ahead and takes care of his business and ends the fight the way you're supposed to end the fight, by knocking him out. And so pretty much that, to me, propelled Charlo to the number one fighter in the world, because he went in there and he beat the guy who was holding up the division on championships, who had the last belt he had to get. And he didn't go for a decision. He went for the kill, and he put the guy out. And this is what makes Charlo a very exciting fighter, because Charlo finishes his fights. And that's exactly what gets you on pay-per-view. That's exactly what gets you talked about by everybody. And Charlo has done that pretty much his whole career. And he's been able to step up at the biggest moments of his career in these big fights and get himself, the big moment. And I feel like Saturday, if he doesn't overexert himself during the week with all the media obligations and all the talking and all that other stuff, and if he just goes back to his room and focuses and, don't overtrain, don't be talking on the phone too much, don't be over here, giving people your moves and all that other stuff that are outside of this situation. You go about your business just like Canelo does. And I promise you, this can be a great fight on Saturday. But if he goes in here smiling a little bit too much for me and, being a little bit too cordial and too humble, then Canelo already has him beat. Because to me, you have to go in here with the idea, and we all respect Canelo. But if I'm advising Charlo, and this is boxing, so don't get offended by me saying this, we ain't got no damn respect for Canelo coming into this week. We feel disrespected because you've been avoiding me for the last 7 years, and I was your mandatory 3 times. So I'm pissed off because you think that you're that much better than me. I'm about to show the world that you ain't. And this can be Bernard Hopkins and Roy Jones Jr. too, if they wanted to be. They could be exactly like that situation if Charlo came about it like that. If Charlo wants to be humble, he wants to be cool, he wants to show his maturity, and he shows his respect for Canelo finally signing the contract and absolutely helping him become the guy that he's been dreaming to be in this business. He is now truly a multimillionaire because he's going to make at least $10 million for this fight. So, hey, at the end of the day, he won the lottery. But can you go ahead and take the jackpot? That's my thing. So with that, we're going to go ahead and take our first commercial break. And when I get back, we're going to jump into some baseball. We got Blue Crew Daily. We got MLB Tuesday Night. And then we got Talkin Tickets right after that. So you guys stay tuned. This is the premier sports betting show, the PrimeTime Angles, with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the PrimeTime Cappers.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners and I'll Have Another and Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
Tune into Big Wave Boxing every week with a brand new guest with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the PrimeTime Capper, getting the best boxing stories, best boxing angles, and the truth when it all comes down to the sweet science. Tune into Big Wave Boxing on the Prime Wave Media channel on YouTube.
All right, here we are. Let's go ahead and get ourselves into some MLB. And you know what? They're trying to just really get rid of MLB as fast as possible. But you know what? It's 162 games for a reason. We got a whole playoff coming up as well, too. And let's talk about it. The Dodgers are already in, but they got a doubleheader that they got going on today against the Rockies. Dodgers playing a doubleheader at Rockies today. So that means they're over at the beautiful Coors Field, you know, one of the funnest fields in all of baseball, and the Dodgers got themselves a double hitter. But the Dodgers are struggling a little bit right now from what I'm seeing. Last time I checked, they were down 3-0. Let's see what the score is right now, because that was right before I started the show. Dodgers is now still down 4-1 at this point, and we're going into the top of the 8th inning. But the Dodgers have their next game coming up at 5:15. And you know what? The Dodgers just came off of winning 3 out of 4 against the Giants. There shouldn't be too much of a sweat. What's going on here this week is the Dodgers need 4 wins. They would win 100 games for the third time for the third year in a row. Okay. And I think possibly, yeah, it would be the third year in a row because I can't count COVID. But I think 2019 they won 100 as well too. So it would be the last 4 out of 5 years winning 100 games. But they pretty much won the equivalent of 100 games in 2020 if you would have played a full season, if you add it up that way. So the Dodgers are chasing some more history. The Dodgers have never really done that in their history as well. And the Dodgers have moved themselves out of the echelon of just competing for division titles and, you know, having some good stars on the team and, you know, just being able to fill up the Chavez Ravine. No, the Dodgers have expectations now. And I talk about it literally every day on Blue Crew Daily. So today, I'll just go ahead a little bit more and talk about the game. You got Bobby Miller on the mound tonight. Bobby Miller needs this for a little bit of a tune-up, but if I'm Doc, I'm not going to keep Bobby out there too long. You know, but let him get some innings, let him get some time out there, let him get some confidence, but you don't need him to go out there and be Cy Young. You don't need him to be Sandy Koufax today. You just need to get 5-6 good innings out of him, and then let that bullpen get a little, stretch them out a little bit and let them get a little bit of time. You know, especially pitchers that haven't been pitching that much this year. Let them get on out there, see if they can prove themselves to be a formidable pitcher for the playoff roster. Because right now, we're trying to set up the ends of that playoff roster for the Dodgers. And really, it relies back on the pitching for the Dodgers. The Dodgers are pretty much set when it comes to the hitters. So let's see how it goes today. But I'm feeling like the Dodgers will get the split. Okay. Now, I didn't feel good about game 1 because it's early in the day. The Rockies always play good in these matinee games as well, too, especially on a Tuesday. So we'll take it as it is. But I feel like the Dodgers going to the night game tonight. They'll have Bobby Miller on the mound. They'll have a different lineup in place as well, too. And I think the Dodgers go ahead and get themselves a good little win tonight, or the game actually stays under. That's the bet that I really do like the most there tonight is the under 11.5, and it will be a part of our late pick 4 as well, too. So with that, that's going to be Blue Crew Daily for you, and I move on. So MLB Tuesday night, we got a full schedule. We already had games. We already have games getting played today. You guys already know the Diamondbacks had to play an early spot today. From what I saw, no, they didn't play an early spot today. That was I think yesterday. They played an early spot yesterday. Sorry about that. But I'm looking at the schedule, and everybody's on the board today with an extra game because it's a double hitter. And then we have the Astros and Mariners. The game of the night. It's going to be on TBS of all networks as well, too. TBS is doing a doubleheader tonight. They got the Cubs and the Braves as well, too. Very important game there as well, too. We're going to talk about that in a moment. And you have the Cardinals, Brewers tonight. Brewers still chasing. Brewers are already in the playoffs, but the Brewers are kind of chasing, the 90 wins and securing that third seed, even though it is secure, but, making sure that they're secure, you know what I mean? So we'll see how it goes. But St. Louis is trying to figure out how they can at least win 70 games this year. They've lost their last 7 out of 10. So there's a lot of there's some games that are very important tonight, and then there's some games that we're just going with the motions. And I will be honest with you, you'll probably see a lot of empty seats at a lot of these games as well too. So let's go ahead and get into our first game, and that's going to be this. It's going to be the Yankees at the Blue Jays. The Yankees coming in 79 and 77. The Blue Jays are coming into the game 87 and 69. The Blue Jays have not solidified their playoff spot yet, but they're getting close because with the Mariners losing their 4th in a row, that really helped out the Blue Jays to have themselves a nice little 3-lead cushion over Seattle now. And also Houston finds themselves with a game and a half cushion over the Mariners as well too. But at the end of the day, there's only a half a game really separating all these teams. And the Blue Jays are in a must-win situation this week. They have to win the week, in my opinion. You have to win the week. You can't have a losing week. And if you have a week where everything stays even though they don't have enough games to say that they're going to stay even this week, because I think they're playing well, yeah, they do, actually. Sorry. So they're playing 6 games this week. So what they would have to truly do is they need to win 4 out of 6 or at least go 3-3. There can't be any 2-4s and things like that. But Toronto's in the driver's seat to already be in the playoffs. I'm thinking to myself that if they can win their next 3 games in a row, they'll probably be able to clinch. Because you're looking at this, and the more that Seattle gets separated from, the more you know that we're getting closer to clinching. But at the same time, too, you have 2 teams that are struggling mightily in the Astros and the Mariners, and the weekend will tell us who the true winner of the final spot for the wild card is going to be. But tonight in this game, the way that I'm setting this one up for us is going to be like this. I'm going to take the over 7 here. We got the Yankees opening up the game with their opener. Kevin Gausman's on the mound for the Blue Jays tonight. This should be a good one to go over on. I know that a lot of people see it as a low-scoring game, but I think the Yankees want to play spoiler, and the Yankees want to make sure that if we're going to sit on the couch, you're going to be sitting on the couch too. So I can expect a competitive game. That's why I'm going with the over 7. So with that, let's move forward, and we're going to jump into a game that's really important tonight, and that's going to be the Cubs and the Braves. The Cubs coming into this game 82 and 74. The Braves are 156. The Braves are the first team to 100 wins this year as well too, and this will be their 3rd season as a 100-win team as well too, or their 2nd season. We know that they won 100 games last year. They had one of the best records in baseball, right behind the Dodgers, and were put out early by their division rival, the Phillies. Now they play the Cubs tonight in a game where you say to yourself, the Cubbies got to have it. And the Braves said to themselves, you know what? We don't need to go that hard in this game tonight. We just need to show up and make sure nobody gets hurt because we're already set. They've pretty much locked down the playoff number 1 seed. Even though the Dodgers are still a few games behind them, I still think, though, at the end of the day, the Dodgers aren't playing as hard either. The Dodgers probably want to win 4 games this week so they can get to 100, but it's not necessary. That's the whole thing. And the Braves know that they're not going to break any records this week, but they want to stay somewhat consistent before they take this week off. So the Braves will be into the game tonight. But we know that the Cubs are the team that has the most to lose. The Cubs are sitting a game ahead of the Marlins. They got a little bit of breathing room, but not that much breathing room at all because they lose tonight and the Marlins win, then you have a deadlock, but the deadlock goes to the Cubs. The Cubs have to be in this series, and the Cubs right now are tied with Arizona, who we're going to talk about next. And Arizona and the Cubs are actually vying for that 2nd wild card spot right now. But the Marlins are still in the mix. And from the outside looking in somewhat, but they're right there at the pace. They're right there with the group, the Reds, 2.5 games out, but the Reds got to win all week. They got to win all week and then hope for the best. It's that simple because they're 2.5 games out of this thing, and they have to hope for them winning every single game and one of these teams getting swept. That's how they get in. That's the only way they get in. So pretty much that's where they're at right now as well, too. But this is a really good game, and I feel like the Cubbies will be very in tune with what's going on, and they're going to make this game an absolute must-see TV type of situation. So with that, this is a client play. So if you're a client, you'll know exactly what I'm on. And if you're not a client, then you're gonna have to figure this one out on who you picking. But let's move forward and let's talk about the next series and next game we have up, and that's going to be the Diamondbacks and the White Sox. The White Sox, my AL Central future for the champion, and they wound up being cooked by July. So it happens. All good. They literally got rid of most of their pitching staff, and they got rid of some of their better hitters as well. Tim Anderson's still on the roster, but hey, it is what it is. But Tim Anderson will be an asset for anybody outside of the Chicago White Sox because that's just a toxic organization and just blow the whole thing up. I would hope their general manager gets with their manager and says, you know what, I'm going to just bring up the kids, and we're going to go from there, and we're going to build that way. I see what the Tigers did. I saw what the Nats have done. I seen what the Pirates did. I saw what the Reds did. I seen what the Orioles did. Let's go do the same thing because we're the Southside boys and we ain't bringing in no stars, no way. So why don't we just go ahead and build the team from the farm because we have a star sitting there. We just have to invest in them. That's it. But for the game, this game is very important for the Diamondbacks. Will the White Sox have any passion tonight? They should. They're at home. And for the few fans that are going to be there, don't you want to entertain them? Don't you want to try to get them a win? Don't you want to have them come and enjoy the game and get every bang for their buck? Maybe. We'll see. But when it comes down to it, this is a very good game. I say scoreboard watching this one. But if I got to pick the winner for this one right here, I think what happens at the end of the day is the Diamondbacks wind up possibly winning this game by a few runs. But I'm playing the scoreboard. But this is another client play. So if you're a client, you got the play. If you're not, then, hey, you're out. You got to sign up. It's that simple. But I still don't worry. I still got you. I got you on tickets. Don't worry. I got you. Because look, I'm coming right back. The tickets will be ready for you. So just be patient. Be cool. Talkin Tickets is coming up right after this commercial break. This is the Premier Sports Betting Show. The PrimeTime Angles with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the PrimeTime Capper.
Now you and your friends can compete in the sport of kings and win big with Stable Duel. Get the app, pick your horses, and get in on the thrill of horse racing with daily games competing against other players. Bring home the glory and the cash and move up the annual leaderboard while you leave your competition in the dust. Get in the game with Stable Duel. Play, race, win.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners and I'll Have Another and Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
All right, here we are. Let's go ahead and jump into Talkin Tickets, and we have ourselves a WNBA ticket today as well too. We got the playoffs going on. We got the semifinals, and the WNBA playoff bets run a little like this. I got the Sun tonight with their actual MVP, non-MVP actually. Jeff stopped the show to announce the WNBA MVP, and I literally was like, bro, now I got to edit that out. So yeah, what's called, because I'm trying to keep things NFL. Love you, Jeff, but let's save the breaking news for primetime angles and things like that. So pretty much plus 9.5 to the Sun tonight. I would say possibly you could go ahead and maybe jump on them as a money line play tonight as well too. Don't be scared. Don't be scared now. Don't be scared now. That's a nice play right there. It's going to be a close game tonight. Don't deny that, because they got one of the better players in the WNBA tonight, and she should be playing a little pissed off because I know she wanted that MVP award. But you know what? Breanna Stewart, ain't nobody better than that girl, so it is what it is at the end of the day. You have the over 175.5 with the Wings and the Aces tonight, and you'll probably get 3-1 on this ticket. But I would say just single them both. You don't want to. Don't give yourself no headache tonight. Just single them and just move on. But if you want to parlay them, they're going to be 3-1. I know without even looking at the parlay list or anything like that, it's going to be 3-1. But I'm playing them single though. So let's move forward. Let's talk about it. The MLB PrimeTime PK6, 44-1. This one right here is a strong, really good play. I like the plus 135 with the Royals tonight. Also like the over 7 with the Yankees and the Blue Jays. Pirates, Phillies, Pirates keep it close, plus 1.5. We also have the under 8 with the Rays and the Red Sox. And then we have the Marlins minus 125. And then we have the Twins minus 105 tonight. So that's going to be our ticket right there. And it might be a little bit more on the odds because I had to switch some things around. And I kind of kept that there. But the number is, if anything, the number will be we got the 44 right here. If you play it right now, you'll probably get it at 50-1. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. We move forward from there. We got the late pick 4, 15-1. We got the under 11.5 with the Dodgers and the Rockies. And then we have the Angels with the plus 140. That is not minus 140. That's a plus 140. Sorry about that. I'll go ahead and I'll correct that. And then we have the over 8.5 with the Padres and the Giants. And then we finish up with the Mariners money line minus 125. And I say that about the Angels is because the Angels are our dog of the day. So pretty much the Angels plus 140 in this bad boy. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out, and we'll go from there. And then we have Nephew jumping in, throwing out a play, and he has his ticket here set up at 25-1 today for your prop plays. You got Still over 5 Ks, Detmer over 5 hits, Urena over 4.5 hits, Michael King 6 Ks today, Tanner Hook with over 4.5 hits, and Acuna over 1.5 bases. That's going to be a ticket that is going to be a 20-1. So you put $20 on that bad boy, you get yourself back $500. And if you go ahead and you play 25-1, it's $625. So it is what it is, and there it is. So pretty much with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap this show up for today. And I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. As usual, you guys are the absolute best. And as I always say, bet with your head, not with your heart. The movement is moving. And this is the premier sports betting show, the PrimeTime Angles, with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the primetime capper. And I'll be right back at you tomorrow. We got a whole bunch of college football to talk about and some more MLB to talk about as well, too. So you guys make sure to tune in, and we will just keep on cashing them tickets. And you can join the party or you can just be left out. It don't matter. We are going to keep going and keep this movement going. And one more time, the movement is moving. And don't bet with your head. Don't bet with your heart. Bet with your head. You guys already know. I might be a little fussy, a little tired because these are 2 shows in one day. So it is what it is. I love y'all. Have a great day. And I'm gone. I'm out. I'm gone. Gone. Where we at?
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.